1 month after Yumenglong's death, manager Du Qiang found at his apartment at 3 a.m. It had been exactly 30 days since the tragic night that shook Beijing to its core. Menglong, the beloved actor whose sudden death had left fans in shock and the entertainment world reeling, was gone, but his story was far from over. For those close to him, the mystery had only deepened. At 3 a.m., when most of the city slept, a lone figure approached Yumenglong's high-rise apartment. Du Qiang, Yu's manager for over a decade, moved with urgency, the weight of unseen secrets pressing heavily on his shoulders. The streets were eerily quiet, neon signs reflecting off puddles from an earlier rainstorm, casting the city in a haunting glow. Every step felt like walking through a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. Du Qiang carried a small duffel bag, inside which were files, a laptop, and Yumenglong's personal journals. His hands shook as he swiped his keycard at the door. The apartment, left untouched since the day of Yumenglong's death, smelled faintly of incense and something metallic, an odd combination that made his stomach churn. The moment the door clicked open, a chill ran down his spine. The apartment was dark, silent, almost waiting for him. Dust motes floated in the slivers of moonlight streaming through the window. But something was off, more than the eerie silence. The faint hum of a laptop still running. That shouldn't have been possible. Du Qiang stepped inside cautiously, eyes scanning every corner. On the coffee table sat Yumenglong's laptop, powered on, a single message blinking on the screen. "You're next if you don't see it." His heart skipped a beat. The message was unsigned, encrypted in a way that only Yu had understood. The first thing Du Qiang noticed was the faint scent of a candle that had been burning for hours. It was the same scent Menglong had always favored, a calming vanilla fragrance, but here, in the dead of night, it felt like a warning, a prelude, a signal that someone had been here. He moved deeper into the apartment, careful not to touch anything, fearing it might destroy evidence. The walls were lined with framed photos of Menglong, smiling at award shows, behind the scenes of dramas, candid moments with friends. But one photo, slightly askew, caught his attention. Menglong's eyes seemed different, alive in a way that the camera had never captured before. Du Qiang reached out, adjusted it, and then froze. Behind the frame, a small envelope was taped to the wall. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a USB drive, labeled simply, "Truth." No signature, no instructions. Just the word truth. Du Qiang knew what he had to do. He connected the USB to the laptop. The screen flickered, then filled with encrypted files, photos, and videos. Some footage was private. Menglong speaking directly to the camera, recording messages no one else had seen. He looked frightened, angry, and desperate. The last video file was dated the night of his death. Du Qiang pressed play, and Menglong's voice echoed through the empty apartment. "Du Qiang, if you're watching this, they're closer than we thought. Trust no one. Not friends, not colleagues, not even those who claim to protect you. I can feel it coming. I can see them in the shadows. The ones with power. They know everything." The hair on Du Qiang's neck stood on end. Menglong's warning was clear, chilling, and impossible to ignore. But the question remained. Who were they? And why had no one acted to protect him? As the footage continued, Du Qiang discovered more files, encrypted conversations between Menglong and a mysterious figure referred to only as H. The chats suggested that Menglong had uncovered something monumental. Secrets so powerful that they threatened to shake the highest levels of authority. He had planned to go public, but someone had intercepted him. Someone had known exactly where he would be, exactly when. Du Qiang felt a sudden presence behind him. He spun around, but the apartment was empty. The shadows seemed longer now, creeping along the walls, stretching like fingers. The hairs on his arms stood on end. He had the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Then came the sound of a soft knock, not at the door, but at the window. He froze. A figure disappeared into the night before he could identify it. His first instinct was to call the police, but deep down, he knew that this wasn't an ordinary threat. Whoever had orchestrated Menglong's death was meticulous, precise, and always one step ahead. The next file on the USB revealed a map of the city, marked with several locations: Yumenglong's apartment, his favorite restaurants, the studio where he rehearsed, even the hospital where he had been treated for minor injuries in the weeks prior. Each location was annotated with names and dates. Du Qiang realized with horror that Menglong had been documenting a shadow network of surveillance, friends, staff, drivers, even fans who had unknowingly become pawns. As he absorbed the gravity of what he had found, Du Qiang's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Leave it alone, or it will be your last night too." Panic surged through him. He was no longer just Yumenglong's manager. He was now a target. The apartment that had once been a sanctuary now felt like a trap. Every creak, every gust of wind outside the window felt like a countdown to something inevitable. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the laptop shut off. Du Qiang was plunged into darkness, with only the faint glow of the city below to illuminate the room. He backed away from the desk, heart racing. And then he heard it, a whisper, almost imperceptible, coming from the corner of the room. "They're watching." It was then that Du Qiang noticed the small security camera in the ceiling, blinking red. He had missed it before. Someone had rigged it to monitor the apartment, to ensure that whatever secrets Menglong had uncovered would not escape. He wasn't alone. With trembling hands, he gathered the files, the USB, and Menglong's journals. He knew he had to move quickly. Whoever had left the warning message and set the camera was still out there, tracking his every step. One wrong move and he could be next. As he slipped out of the apartment into the silent streets, he realized the terrifying truth. Yumenglong's death was just the beginning. The files he carried could expose a conspiracy that reached far beyond the entertainment industry, into corridors of power, into the hearts of those who believed themselves untouchable. And somewhere, in the shadows of Beijing, someone was waiting, watching, ensuring that the truth would remain buried, or that it would cost anyone who dared to reveal it everything. Du Qiang walked faster, the USB clutched tightly in his hand. He knew that the next few days would determine everything. The secrets Menglong had hidden, the warnings he had left behind, they were more dangerous than anyone could imagine. And one thing was certain: the world would never see Menglong's story the same way again. Because now the real story was just beginning.
Du Qiang didn't pause to breathe.
The city outside seemed to hold its own secret, as if even the neon lights and rain-slicked streets were complicit in the danger that now loomed over him. The USB drive in his hand felt heavier than any duffel bag he had ever carried. Each step down the hallway of Menglong's apartment felt measured, almost as if the floor itself were plotting to betray him. As he reached the living room, a soft click echoed behind him. He spun around, but the apartment was empty. At least, that's what he wanted to believe. Dust motes shimmered in the pale moonlight, and the faint smell of incense still lingered. But it wasn't just incense anymore. There was another odor, metallic, sharp, like iron, and it triggered a deep, instinctive fear in him. He moved toward Yu's desk. The laptop screen, now dark, seemed to stare at him like a closed coffin. Then, without warning, it flickered back to life. A video began playing automatically. Yumenglong's face filled the screen, eyes wide and frantic. "Du Qiang, if you're watching this, it's happening faster than I thought. They know everything. They are inside my circle, closer than we ever imagined." Du Qiang's hands trembled as he leaned closer. Every word Menglong spoke was like a razor cutting into his mind, revealing horrors he hadn't dared consider. The actor's voice dropped to a whisper, almost inaudible. "I saw the man in black. I saw the car. They're watching the building now. Don't trust the elevator. Don't trust the stairs. Not even the lobby cameras." A loud knock shattered the silence. Du Qiang froze. The knock came again, soft, deliberate. Too precise to be accidental. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run, but where could he go? The streets outside were exposed, the apartment high above ground. Whoever, or whatever, was out there knew the terrain better than he did. He edged toward the window, the USB clutched in his hand. As he peered out, the empty streets seemed deceptively calm. But something moved, a shadow slipping between the alleyways, indistinct yet unmistakably alive. A figure in black, motionless, waiting. The city had never felt so alive and yet so empty at the same time. Returning to the laptop, Qiang discovered another folder, one he hadn't noticed before. It contained hundreds of photos, some taken from surveillance cameras, some seemingly captured by Yu himself. Each photo had a timestamp, mapping the last weeks of his life in a terrifying sequence. Every photo showed someone in the background, unnoticed, watching, following. Friends, colleagues, delivery men. All perfectly ordinary faces, yet in each, Qiang began to see a sinister pattern. A text message pinged on the laptop. Anonymously sent. One line. "Stop digging or you'll be next." The words blinked like a warning sign, flashing against the dark room. Qiang's throat tightened. Every warning Menglong had left, every premonition of danger, was now coming true in real time. Then the lights flickered violently. For a moment, the apartment was plunged into darkness, and in that split second, Qiang swore he saw someone standing behind the couch. The figure vanished before he could move, leaving only the lingering scent of something cold and metallic. Panic clawed at him. He realized that the safety he once felt, even in Menglong's absence, was an illusion. The apartment was no longer a refuge. It had become a trap. The USB drive pulsed in his hand, as if alive. He forced himself to focus, navigating the files. Among them, he found encrypted chat logs between Menglong and a mysterious contact labeled only H. The conversations were fragmented but alarming. Menglong had been gathering evidence, photos, documents, recordings, anything that could expose a powerful conspiracy. He had written names, times, even predicted movements. And someone had been systematically eliminating these threats one by one. Suddenly, a loud bang came from the hallway outside his apartment. The building's silence fractured. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, moved closer. Qiang's mind raced. Whoever was outside knew he had the files. They knew he had come to Menglong's apartment. There was no escape, at least not without being seen. He ducked behind the desk, heart hammering. The doorknob rattled. Someone was trying to enter. He whispered Menglong's name like a prayer. The door creaked open slowly, and a shadow slid inside. A voice, low and measured, cut through the room. "Qiang, you shouldn't have come here." The figure remained in the dark, almost featureless, yet Qiang could feel the menace radiating. Every warning Menglong had left, the videos, the messages, the encrypted files, suddenly crystallized into a horrifying truth. The network of danger was larger than he had imagined. It was organized, patient, and merciless. Qiang realized then that Menglong's death had not been a random tragedy. It had been a carefully orchestrated act, one designed to silence him and anyone who dared uncover the truth. The files in his hands were dangerous beyond measure, capable of exposing secrets that powerful forces wanted buried forever. And now, by stepping into this apartment, he had become a participant in the same deadly game. The figure moved closer, and Qiang's mind raced for options. He remembered the fire escape, narrow, risky, but perhaps the only chance of survival. Clutching the USB like a lifeline, he bolted toward the window. Behind him, the footsteps quickened. He swung the window open and climbed out into the fire escape, metal cold under his hands. From above, the city looked innocent, peaceful, and oblivious. But Qiang knew the truth. Beneath the calm facade, the shadows were watching, waiting for the next misstep. Each floor he descended was a countdown, each step a gamble. The files, the messages, the warnings, they were all pieces of a puzzle that was far from complete. Finally, at street level, he darted into the night. The shadowy figure did not follow, at least, not immediately. Qiang knew this reprieve was temporary. Whoever had orchestrated Menglong's death had eyes everywhere, and now, they were aware that someone else held the secrets. He disappeared into the silent streets, the USB still clutched in his hand, the weight of Menglong's final warnings heavy in his mind. One thing was certain, the story was far from over. The files contained the truth. the names, the proof. And now, someone powerful would stop at nothing to ensure that truth never reached the light of day. As the city slept, Du Qiang realized the chilling reality. Yumenglong's death had been only the first act in a drama far bigger, far more dangerous, and far more explosive than anyone could have imagined. And he, Du Qiang, was now in the center of it.